guys, welcome back to another Car Topics Explained. Another, you say? Well, that's because this is based off of a series from another YouTuber. A YouTuber by the name of The Racing Joker. If you don't know who he is, he's another YouTuber who loves to talk about cars, mostly around the Fast and Furious films, and some real-life cars he's owned himself, like a Subaru WRX, and currently a BMW M3 E46 that he plans on recreating into a GTR. He does a bunch of gameplay for stuff like Minecraft, Need for Speed, and mud. Yeah, he's got very enjoyable content. If you like cars and stuff, you'll like him. And he also has gotten in contact with Craig Lieberman, the guy behind the first Fast and Furious films when it comes to just giving advice for any of the street racing stuff. In this video, it will be very similar to his other Car Topics Explained videos. I will have his channel linked in the description so that way you can go check out all of his sweet content and a bunch of other playlists. For example, he's done the Too Fast, Too Furious Skyline, and well, that has over 1 million views, which is an insane number for such a small channel like it. Well, I say small, not really, but you know what I mean. One more thing. Go check out his Discord. It's free to access. We talk a few things over there. We just mostly chill and hang out and just bring out some random stuff. He also shows off what car parts he's bought for his car. Like, for example, he's recently purchased an airbag, which is very pretty. But enough about me and Tom, aka The Racing Joker. You want to know more about the infamous Need for Speed movie Mustang. And that's what we are here for. But before that, we need to know how this car was chosen, what body mods were done, how you could replicate yourself, or might not, where the hero car is, and how you could drive this car yourself, and some other tidbits about the film itself. And if you stick around until the end, I will speak about the replica cars that were used throughout the film, like the Koenigsegg, Bugatti, the GT Hispano, all of the supercars that were featured. Any and all information came from interviews and other secondhand sources. Those who worked on the cars in film I tried to find, I don't know how to contact them personally. So if you do, and are able to correct me on any information that might be false, please let me know in the comments. I will greatly appreciate that. I am all for any kind of criticism that comes towards my way for any potentially false information. The sites and sources I got them from should be credible enough. I'm fairly confident the information is at least 85% to 95%. Of course, all sources will be linked in the description. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Let's start off with why this car was chosen. But in order to do that, we need to start out with how the film was created and decided, so that way we can go further on with what made the director Scott Waugh choose the cars. Let's get into an interview with Top Gear. It originally started with Steven Spielberg taking an interest in Scott Waugh, who is the director of the Need for Speed film, and his work in Act of Valor. Spielberg sat down with Waugh at a meeting after Spielberg purchased the script for a Need for Speed film, and Spielberg asked Waugh if he would like to direct the film. Scott Waugh gladly accepted. Afterwards, Waugh had the idea of looking back at automotive films from the 60s and 70s, which he considers to be some of the best car movies of all time. Apparently, there are also little nods to those films in the Need for Speed film, like Bullet, The French Connection, Smokey and Bandit, and many others. That also explains why there is a not so subtle callback to Bullet, where the movie played in the drive-in theater is Bullet, and that was played at the beginning of the Need for Speed film. He, quote, wanted a car that represented the average consumer's modern version of muscle. Not these $100,000 plus supercars, but something that represents the middle of America. There's only three: the GT500 Mustang, the Viper, and the Corvette, end quote. He was a big fan of Carroll Shelby, and after Mr. Shelby's passing, he felt inspired to use a Mustang, especially after looking back at Bullet. Now to finally get on to the movie Mustang itself. Let's first talk about the reveal, the exterior, interior, and finally performance. May or may not be in that order. The car was officially revealed at E3 2013 alongside Need for Speed Rivals, which also made an appearance in the game. The Mustang GT in the film was obviously a 2014 Shelby GT500 with a very unique and specific body kit, but I'll get onto that body kit a bit later. The Mustang's paint consists of a, quote, subdued shade of silver and Kona blue dual racing stripes, end quote. It did also feature a glossy painted roof that was black. This was likely inspired by Most Wanted's BMW M3 GTR, as both use silver and blue as their main color schemes. That remains to be confirmed. Let me know what you think about that. Personally, I think that it is a callback to Most Wanted, the most popular Need for Speed title. Onto the rims. The rims are 22-inch Forgiato rims. As to what version and model those Forgiatos are, I currently do not know. It was likely created for the film itself. That'll be used as future reference. The hood consists of two fairly decently sized air intakes that are surprisingly not functional, which is very strange. Onto the mirrors. The mirrors on the side of the car have been completely removed. In the movie, they are seen as functional cameras that are visibly used in the first-person shots, but are surprisingly not actual mirrors. They are just pegs that are for looks. The cameras are not functional, obviously. The rear spoiler and diffuser on the back of the Mustang is custom, at least to my understanding. The rear quarter panel windows have been replaced with non-functioning air vents. The front bumper does indeed actually have real cooling, with some custom halo LEDs and a Mustang GT grille. Remember, this was a Shelby GT500 beforehand. Now that we're done with the exterior, let's get on to the interior. And the interior hasn't really been changed that much. It's relatively stock. But for a few exceptions. The screen that was used was likely the Dynaven, apologies for pronouncing wrong, GPS radio touchscreen, which is probably stock in the GT500. But it does have a strange red circle up above the screen, which I'm not sure what that's for. Maybe a magnet you can stick your phone to, but that hasn't really been discussed. The rear seats have been taken out, but instead have been replaced with a Ford Racing tubular steel X-brace. For rigidity, I assume. The HUD seen in the film, 50-50 whether or not was functional. Some sites are saying yes, while others say no. And I do agree that it's probably not, mostly because of the camera showing up in the HUD. And finally, the seats used in the Mustang were Recaro black racing seats. As to a specific model, I am not sure. I'm not sure if they use different models for Recaros, as I am unfamiliar with racing seats. Now, with that out of the way, let's finally get into performance. There's not much about performance, to be honest. The car was already fast enough, and of course, it used the stock GT500 Trinity 5.8 liter supercharged V8 with the stock Tremec TR6060 6-speed manual that was in the GT500. The film made that Mustang look like it was 900 horsepower, but in reality, it was just 600. Seeing that it's already fast enough, you don't need to make things more expensive for yourself. The exhaust system was created by Magnaflow, who was a big part in the film itself for not only performance, but also for the exhaust notes itself. You can even see their logo when Joe rides around in the Beast. Let's get on to how you'd want to replicate this car. I know what you're all wondering. How could I replicate this car, and where is it? Unfortunately, replicating the car is a lot harder than you might think. You see, the Mustang in the film, the body kit for it, was completely custom made, and it was developed by Ford themselves. Unfortunately, if you want an exact body kit, you'll probably have to know a guy who can convince the executives to design another kit just for you, and even if you somehow make it that far, you're likely not going to get any further unless you're in deep with Ford themselves. Basically, you kind of have to be royalty in order to let them even build you another one-of-a-kind replica. Or you might want to get good at designing parts from scratch. Or if that's too much work for you, you can just buy it off of the guy who paid some insane figures for a one-of-a-kind Mustang. After the film was completed, it was sent off to be auctioned at Barrett-Jackson. The proceeds went to the Henry Ford Health System's non-profit charity, which was founded by Henry Ford himself. It wasn't sold at the movie's stated value of $2.7 million, but was instead auctioned off at $300,000 to one very lucky man who goes by Dave Flynn. But if that's too much money, you could go on the cheap or cheapest side and purchase a replica movie Mustang by either buying the Hot Wheels movie Mustang off of Amazon or eBay for some not so reasonable prices. Or you can just buy a 1/24 scale for much more reasonable prices. As for the Mustang's location, currently, that remains to be unknown. The last known location was from Dave Flynn, who lived in Columbiana, Ohio. And before anyone gets angry, no, I'm not doxing him. This information was available on the internet for years. Don't get your panties twisted. It's likely that he has sold it off. From all the research that I read online, he apparently owns a string of dealerships, and unfortunately I do not know much more about the main hero car. But what I can tell you is there are other Mustangs that were used in the film. In total, 8 movie Mustangs were built. However, 6 of them were wrecked, and 5 of those were ultimately destroyed and rode off. Unknown about the one that wasn't totally destroyed and completely wrecked, it's likely that 1 or 2 of them were likely used as Mick rigs. For those who don't know what Mick rigs are, they're essentially just cars that were chopped up, cut into, and had a bunch of bits and stuff replaced to be used as some kind of camera car. But there is one more thing about another Mustang that was completely fine. It was used as a pace car at the 2014 Ford EcoBoost 400 during the 2013 NASCAR Sprint Cup season. As you can see on screen, actor Ramon Rodriguez, who played Joe, taking a photo next to the Mustang. And sources online has stated that he got to drive it and become an honorary pace car driver for the time being. Anyway, let's get on to some of the moments with the Mustang. I will confirm that everything you see 100% is real. Take a look at the video. But some things to point out about some of the other Mustangs. Firstly, the grasshopper jump at the end of the Detroit police chase. They did not use, obviously, the hero car, not even used a V8 Mustang. They had used a V6 Mustang. You can tell just by looking at what rims they were using. They were not V8 rims. That was the only non-V8 version I found. You don't even need to pause it since they use slow motion in that shot and it's very visible. The jump Mustang used at the canyon was also likely a non-V8. And probably even the Mustang at the San Francisco scene when Toby finally makes it to California only to have it wreck. Other than Aaron Paul actually driving the car, there's not much else to speak on the car apart from the sound, which not only used the Trinity's V8, but also had some other V8 Mustangs, as seen in the Sound of Need for Speed behind the scenes video.
Car.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the Mustang part, but as a bonus for sticking to the end, I'd like to go over the replica hypercars at the end of the movie. First, the people behind it were RCR, or race car replicas, who were responsible for the chassis and LS motors that produced over 500 horsepower in the replicas. And surprisingly enough, the chassis were based off of the Superlight SLC and Real Industries, who designed the fiberglass body shells used for the replica supercars and hypercars. The replicas used in the movie took about 6 months in total for everything to be built, and there were 15 individual replicas built. So, in summary, the movie Mustang came out of a love from 60s and 70s car films, with an exclusive and custom body kit selling over $300,000 by Dave Flynn, and became somewhat of an icon to Ford itself. And it came out of the respect for the older 60s and 70s films that these older Americana muscle cars were featured. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I again apologize for any information that may be false, but everything should be close to accurate. If you have anything to add on, please let me know, so that way we can get some more information about what the movie car came of itself. And remember to give my boy Tom, aka the Racing Joker, some credit, because he's the one who came up with the series in the first place. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you all next time. Later, folks. Shorty going on with the sad eyes. I got it on my homie. That shit turn gold. What would they do without me? I guess we'll never know. Running up jazz like the steps all night. Says she got a